I never knew my father, but Mom and I were really close. We didn't need anyone else. We both loved to talk over a cup of hot chocolate in the morning and tell each other the most interesting things we read on the internet. Fact-checked, of course. See? This male model is walking on the ramp with heels. Guess what? Apparently high heels were originally for men. After that, we biked to school most mornings on Mom's way to work. One day, when we were in a little bit of a rush, Mom and I raced through a light just as it turned. I didn't pay attention to a car making a left turn, crossing the intersection and nicking Mom's back tire, sending her flying off her bike while it sped away. Rage rushed through me and I threw rocks at the car before it sped away without looking back. Oh no! Mom! I'll call 911. We need to get you to the hospital.
Did you see who did this?
No.
Well, let's not wait for the ambulance. I can take you to the hospital right now.
And here I am, getting into the story without even introducing myself. Hi, I'm Aurora. I used to live in Pennsylvania, and now in Australia. Before I tell you the rest of the story, please like and subscribe. The man introduced himself to us as Carrie, and he was so kind that he checked on us every day for the week Mom was in the hospital. Once Mom came home on crutches, she tried to go back to work at the chocolate factory. But instead, they let her go. No job meant we were about to lose our tiny one-bedroom apartment too. We were struggling when, like a guardian angel, Carrie showed up at the door. He came to meet us as it was his last day in Pennsylvania, and when he heard about everything, he had an idea.
I have plenty of room, and I'd really like to help you and Aurora.
The next thing I knew, we packed and left everything I liked and moved with Carrie to Australia. He had an enormous mansion. I had my own bedroom and my very own study with an art corner. Carrie even hired Mom to be his office assistant, and we never had to cook or clean anything. The upstairs housekeeper made our beds, and the driver took me to school along with Carrie's twin nieces, Julie and Jackie. You'll have to sit in the boot, like the dog we never had. There's plenty of room in the back seat. It's a big SUV. We're not sitting next to you. Just because our uncle took you in does not mean we have to change our lives to make room for you either. So yeah, I sat in the back. Didn't try to make friends with their friends, and I kept to my passion, which is art. When I wasn't finding art to look at, I was drawing. That one guy, Lee, who looked like a rock star, had his locker right next to mine. And one day, I accidentally hit him with my locker door, giving him a start.
Watch it, loser. You almost tore my jacket.
Your wardrobe looks like you can take it. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. The door just swung open kind of fast.
Don't let it happen again, or you'll see how fast I can fight back.
He walked away, and I felt really weird. Like, was that a threat? Was he actually dangerous? Or just liked acting tough? He surprised me the next time we were both there at the same time, when he picked up a drawing that fell out of my notebook.
This looks like a cross between an old famous Degas and a cool Banksy. Way to mix decades together.
Wow, I'm surprised you know who these artists are.
Maybe you shouldn't judge a book by its cover.
He did dress like a rebel, and I'd seen him drive a flashy scooter. Lee was one of the most popular boys in school and super handsome. But that didn't mean he wasn't smart. Well, when the book speaks in cliches, you don't expect much.
Touché, mademoiselle. I'll try to be more original. Maybe you should crack this book open to see more of the story.
Are you asking me out in a very roundabout way?
It sounds like you want me to, new girl. I could oblige, but I don't want to be late for class.
He walked backwards, keeping his eyes on me for a moment, and then turned and went ahead. That afternoon, our English literature teacher separated the class into two halves. My half of the room wrote our names on tiny slips of paper and dropped them in a hat. The other half of the room each picked one of our names. Julie and Jackie got each other, which seemed fitting.
I got Aurora. What do you know?
You can put it back and pick again. I don't mind. The class laughed, but the teacher said there were no swaps, and we found out that we had to act out a scene from a Shakespeare play.
Oh, this should be fun. I bet you want to do Romeo and Juliet.
No, why would I pick that when I could play someone who hates you?
I thought you didn't like cliches.
Obviously we should do. And then we both said it at the exact same time. Much ado about nothing.
A play where the world could be blowing up.
And people are more concerned with the petty, stupid stuff.
Shakespeare really is timeless.
Yeah, stupidity hasn't ended in hundreds of years. Isn't it always the handsome ones who are the worst? All the way home, I had to bear Julie and Jackie taunting me about Lee while I sat behind them in the car. Is that play where you get killed by the boy you're paired with? That's definitely the one you should do with Lee. You two are thinking of fairy tales. Maybe you should do Cinderella and see how that goes. I ignore the rest of their jabs. The next day, I was studying in the library when Lee came over, plopped his smelly shoes on my table, and gave me a weird look. I snapped. I picked up the heaviest book I could find and threw it right at his feet. Oh, sorry.
Ouch! Ouch!
I laughed as I walked away. He still followed me, then blocked my path with his arm.
Come to my place after school?
What? Are you nuts?
Don't we need to practice the play? My house is perfect for it.
And what? You've got blisters on your feet? Can't make it to my place instead?
Ugh, does your place have a library and a stash of theater props?
Not sure. But okay, I'll come over. But first, apologize for the locker incident, now.
And then it would be a yes. Promise.
Yes.
I'm sorry, beautiful.
Did you hear that? Or is it just me? Okay, apology accepted.
Anyway, I'm good at lying, but you promised me. So, see ya.
Ugh. He stormed off and I went to his house after school that day. Only his parents' house was an even bigger mansion than Carrie's, and the art on the walls was better than a museum collection. Originals of every artist I'd ever heard of. Wow. Wow. Wow! Lee sprayed his mouth with some breath freshener before we started reading some lines together. That's weird.
It's not weird. It's chivalrous.
I think you should also do the same for your feet. What other fun facts should I know before I have to stand close to you?
Okay, Miss U.S. of A. Let's just focus on the homework, shall we?
When Carrie's driver came to pick me up, he asked Lee why he hadn't been around, as he knew him well, but that must be because Julie and Jackie had invited him to some party at home. As I reached home, I was surprised to see Mom and Carrie sitting close, watching a movie together. Well, I didn't mind. But later that week, Mom seemed upset after a nice dinner out with Carrie. When I asked her what was wrong, I was shocked at her answer. Carrie and I have gotten closer, so I guess he felt comfortable telling me the truth. He was driving the car that hit me. What? He deceived us and I thought of him as an angel all the time. He should be in jail. I'm going to call the police and tell them everything. Mom tried to stop me, but I stormed off and took a bus to the police station. The kind officer told me that they had no jurisdiction for something that happened in a different country. I was so angry. So I started to think of ways to hurt Carrie like he hurt Mom. I could let the air out of his tires, but that really only hurts his driver. I could mix salt into his coffee, but it might not bubble over like a soda would. I ended up taking scissors and cutting a slit in every pair of pants he had. But in one day, they were all replaced and Mom made me apologize. Aurora, you have to forgive him. I have. He's giving us a better life than I ever could. But he hurt you, and he lied? He didn't mean to, and he cares deeply. Maybe he has you fooled, but I am not. Because of everything, I was so distracted, even while doing my homework at Lee's house. I guess he noticed how quiet I was because he did something I least expected. Salsa! He kept on dancing, making these silly faces, and then he started tumbling over the furniture like a circus clown, which made me laugh till I cried. Eventually, he sat down next to me and took me by surprise when he hugged me. Why'd...
You look upset about something, and I've learned over the years that a hug is like magic. I wish I had them once, but since I didn't, I'd rather give them to people whom I like. A lot.
I didn't push him away. I knew that I needed that hug. But in that moment, I knew he needed it maybe more than me. I was happy, and we started spending more time together. He even offered to carry my books, started sitting with me at lunch, and when I told him about the chocolate factory where I used to live, he had hot chocolate waiting in a thermos for our next rehearsal.
We should rehearse the scene all the way through since we have to do it in class tomorrow.
He asked me to be his girlfriend, and I said yes. When I went home that night, I completely understood the expression, walking on clouds. Maybe our life in Australia was better than it ever might have been. I wanted the good vibe to last, so I couldn't face riding with the nieces to school the next day. I took the bus. On my way to class, I noticed Lee talking to Julie and Jackie, so I ducked around the corner so I could listen without them seeing me. Then I was shocked when he leaned closer to Jackie.
Well, I am that good of an actor.
Okay, but you can quit now. I don't like this anymore. You were just supposed to spend time with her to see how Jackie and I are so much better. I'm missing my boyfriend. Aren't you missing me too?
Of course. I'm doing this for you, right? You two came up with this plan.
Plan? Getting close to me was all some sort of game for them? He didn't want me any more than Carrie wanted us. I was fuming. I raced to the bathroom to pull myself together and set my own plan in motion. When it was time to perform our scene in class, I put on the low-cut costume our maid delivered for me with an extra prop I asked her to bring. Lee whispered in my ear before we began.
Aurora, you look amazing.
Wait for the next surprise. When he tried to squeeze my hand, I conveniently pulled away to grab my little paper bag with the prop inside. In our scene, we worked out that Lee would casually take a bite from an apple. We ad-libbed and made up some added dialogue when I handed him a caramel apple instead.
What a treat to have caramel. You'd think it was my birthday.
I tried to keep from laughing, but his face was priceless as he took a bite and found it was a caramel onion. The whole class laughed at him, but he kept going, like he wanted to prove he'd do anything for me. After class, Lee grabbed my arm.
What was that?
Maybe Jackie, your real girlfriend, has some of your mouth freshener for you.
Wait, how'd you find out?
I didn't want to hear any of his lies, so I ran out and left school early to go home to find Mom. I begged to move back to Pennsylvania, but Mom showed me a giant new ring right before Carrie walked in. Aurora, I know it's fast, but Carrie and I feel it was fate that brought us together.
I didn't know that my trip to America will help me find the two people I care about more than anything in the world. I'm very sorry that it had to be through an accident. It was an honest mistake, and I don't want to lose both of you.
I was beginning to soften toward Carrie. He was really showing he cared. I guess that look in his eyes was the dad moment I'd been missing. I'd been overthinking it, but he'd done so much for us. Clearly, my anger took the best of me.
And if you still don't agree, I'm not going to press your mom to stay. And you know, I've had enough punishment as I had those piles you wished for me. At least take it back.
I'm sorry. But I never want to go back to that school, though. They're hateful. As I told them what happened, I didn't see that Lee had been let into the room.
You only think that because you don't have all of the information. Didn't you say you liked to fact check?
In that moment, I knew it was time I took charge of my own narrative. Lee looked like he'd been crying, but even his explanation didn't change my mind.
I never meant to hurt you. I was trying to find the right time to tell Jackie that she and I were through and how much I really do like you. That getting to know you was absolutely the best thing ever.
Wow, that's sweet. And I know what I'm doing. Lee, you're exactly the kind of guy I want to be dating. And Carrie, you've done so much for Mom and me. Only, I just realized that I don't want to be an extra in anyone's story or a prize in some twisted game. I don't need any grand gestures to know my worth or dictate my happiness either. Lee's eyes held a mixture of admiration and surprise. Carrie and Mom both looked like they respected what I was saying. I'm going back to Pennsylvania, not because I'm running away from what happened here, but because I've got dreams to chase. I want to go to art school and build my life on my own terms. Lee remained silent, but I could tell he liked what I was saying.
But what about us?
You will always be a part of my story, but it's time for me to write the next chapter in my own way. Carrie, you and Mom have a chance at happiness. I won't stand in the way of that. Lee, if what we have is real, it'll survive the distance and the test of time. The room was filled with a sense of understanding as Carrie told a maid to pack my things. When I hugged my mom goodbye, I whispered, "I'm doing this for us, Mom, so we can both be strong independently." I left the mansion with my head held high, not as a girl swept up in a whirlwind of events, but as a young woman taking her first steps into a future she was crafting for herself. On the plane back to Pennsylvania, I sketched a collage of lessons learned over the past few months, friendships formed, and a path leading to a bold, unapologetic future of my own design. Of course, I included a kiss with Lee in that future. Stay tuned for the story when he visits me.